When the Honda Passport was first reintroduced into the lineup late last decade, it was basically a two-row version of the Pilot. It was designed primarily to be an adventure vehicle, to go off-road, and to be a bit more rugged than that Pilot. It was going to take on vehicles like the Ford Edge and Chevrolet Blazer. But here we are in 2025 and for the 2026 model, and the Ford Edge isn't here anymore. The Chevrolet Blazer is getting cut from the lineup later this year, and maybe, just maybe, this new Passport isn't a two-row Pilot anymore. In today's video, we're going to check out what the 2026 Passport has to offer. Our model today is the RTL, which is the base trim for 2026, and maybe a bit more conducive for a lot of you out there looking for a two-row SUV under $50,000. And in today's video, we're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, and see why, if you're looking for an SUV that is going to be a bit more capable but also spacious for the interior, then maybe taking a look at the 2026 Passport might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Atamian Honda here in Tewksbury, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the Honda Passport. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Honda inventory. So as always, let's begin with pricing. For 2026 with the RTL, you're looking at a starting cost of just over $47,500. This is the base trim for this model, believe it or not. Now, the RTL is the Passport equivalent that the EXL is for the Pilot. So similar features, similar amenities, and in fact, I don't think this is going to be the base trim for very long in the Passport lineup. I have a feeling, just like we saw with the Pilot, there will be a sport trim probably for 2027, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. For the RTL though, this is designed more to be for mall terrain, because with the TrailSport and TrailSport Elite, you're going to receive all-terrain tires, off-road tuned suspension, and also skid plates, where you don't receive any of that here with the RTL. The RTL, to me, because of the new platform and chassis, which also underpins the Pilot, is going to give you some rigidity and refinement that kind of makes the Passport feel somewhat luxurious at around $45,000. So keep all of this in mind. If you don't go off-road, the RTL would be the better choice here for 2026. Now, also, as you can tell from the ground up, brand new here in regards to its design and the aesthetics. Now, from certain angles though, I do see the Pilot, especially for the front and rear fenders. But then for the front and rear fascias though, that's a completely different story and actually quite refreshing. So let's get acclimated with the RTL. So up front, you are going to receive full LED headlights, however, no fog lights. So you're going to want to go with the TrailSport, especially if you go off-road, because you're going to have better visibility at night or in adverse weather conditions. But for me though, what I really do like about the Passport, it has its own design and persona. I mean, so many brands take the lazy way out here, where this could essentially be a two-row version of the Pilot, and you're going to notice that for the interior, but not for the exterior, which is really great to see. So you're going to notice here you have your daytime running lights, which are more circular or horseshoe-like, which is really great to see on this model. It gives you more of an upscale appearance late at night or during the day. Also, you're going to notice the Passport badge stamped out on the front fascia, giving you that rugged appearance. But above that, you have active grille shutters. Active grille shutters for a Passport. Who would have ever thought we would have seen something like this in the Honda lineup? Because I think the last time I saw active grille shutters was on a BMW 4 Series. So that'll help out with the airflow to the powertrain. For the lower portion of the front bumper, you're going to have some color contrasting accents here and also the aggressive cladding. But I am glad to see that Honda didn't go too far with that cladding. Some manufacturers go way overboard here, making it look tacky and cheap, but Honda kept things a bit more conservative in that regard. Then as you make your way over to the side profile, you are going to receive 18-inch alloy wheels that are not wrapped in all-terrain tires. If you don't go off-road, you don't want to deal with the ride quality and road noise that comes along with those all-terrain tires, going with the RTL would be a better choice. Now, because the RTL is still going to be part of the Passport lineup, you're still going to have the aggressive nature to this model that is more off-road worthy. You're going to notice that with the side mirror caps and door handles, which are not color matched. So with this model, you're not going to have color matched side mirror caps with turn signal indicators. However, you are going to receive blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back for the Passport, there's some trendy styling here, not only with the roofline, but also the C-pillar design with the windows, and even for the rear fascia itself. Now, there is some things that carry over from last generation, such as the vertical taillights, which is unique for the Passport compared to the Pilot, which I'm glad to see that Honda didn't make a carbon copy for this model in any way, shape, or form aside from the fenders. Now, you're going to notice that there is some continuity from the front fascia, where there is the Passport badge once again stamped out on the rear fascia, which is very trendy in this market. Also, you're going to notice the cladding and color contrasting accents once again. Also, we have the trailer hitch here for our model, so that way you can tow a small boat or RV. So there's a lot of capability here overall with the Passport, and better yet, for 2026, you have a ground clearance of 8.3 inches with the RTL, which is slightly better than last generation. So all in all, in regard to the exterior aesthetics here, I think Honda did a very good job, where not only does it look rugged and like a lot of other vehicles in this market, but also looks a bit more upscale as well, which should draw in a lot of new buyers to this vehicle. Taking a quick peek under the hood for the 2026 Honda Passport, you are going to notice a familiar sight. A 3.5-liter naturally aspirated, so great to see, V6 engine. Producing 285 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, it is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission, unlike last generation, which had a 9-speed. With this new transmission, the gear shifts are smoother and crisper, much like you experience with the Pilot. This is basically a 2-row version of that Pilot with that same powertrain. Now, don't let the V6 fool you though, because this isn't going to be a sports crossover like some rivals such as a Chevrolet Blazer. This is designed to be a rugged off-roader, and it does that quite well, with this being the most capable SUV Honda has ever produced. Now, with this powertrain, you are going to have a towing capacity of 5,000 pounds, falling right in line with most rivals in this market. Also, better yet, all-wheel drive does come standard for better year-round capability and versatility. However, we have to sadly come to that fuel economy. So with the Passport, you're looking at right around 19 miles per gallon in the city and 25 miles per gallon on the highway, which isn't too much different than the Pilot, and actually isn't too much different than a Hyundai Santa Fe with the XRT trim. So you can go back and forth on that, V6 or 4-cylinder. I think the V6 wins out at the end of the day. But if you're someone who doesn't care about fuel efficiency, this V6 is going to be a refreshing sight in 2025 right now. Hopping inside the RTL, you're going to receive power-adjustable heated leather trim seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having 2-position memory for added convenience. The first impressions here for the RTL are great. I mean, if you're someone that's hopping into this model for the first time, one, you're going to notice that it does feel somewhat luxurious and upscale here for a vehicle at $45,000. But two, these seats are really comfortable with a lot of cushioning, and Honda does a really good job with that. They did that for last generation for the Passport, so that isn't too much of a surprise. But the fact that these seats do give you a lot of that comfort that you want to experience in a luxury SUV, but you don't want to spend over $50,000, this is fantastic. Now, obviously though, the bolstering isn't going to be too aggressive, and that isn't a surprise to me at all, because this vehicle is designed to be an off-road worthy vehicle. Most off-road worthy SUVs don't give you the bolstering like you're going to be in a sports car or say a Honda Civic Si or Type R. So I'm not disappointed by that at all. Now, also one thing I do like here, and Honda does a really good job with this, is that their dashboard layout is rather classy and also not over-styled, because you are going to notice the full digital gauge cluster and new infotainment system. We'll talk about this in a minute. But then also, you're still going to have physical buttons and dials for your 3-zone climate control, heated front seats, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. So refreshing to see in 2025 and for a 2026 model. So if you're someone who doesn't want to have a lot of tech at your fingertips, you still have an analog experience here and layout with the 2026 Passport. In front of you will be a full digital gauge cluster. That is right. Usually for most Hondas, you get a half digital, half analog gauge cluster, but that isn't the case for the RTL. Now, we've experienced this numerous times in the Honda lineup, so I'm not going to go too in depth here and go over everything you have here at your fingertips and at your disposal, but still, this is great to see in 2026. So from here on the right side and on the left side, you are going to have some dials here to scroll through a variety of information, such as your safety support, tire pressure monitoring, maintenance, seatbelt reminder, pitch and roll, all-wheel torque distribution, also your driver attention system, and navigation. So this is actually really big, because now that you have the Google built-in software, you can display the map in your digital gauge cluster. This is a first for Honda, at least for the Passport, but also first for most vehicles in the Honda lineup. So this is a great thing to see now for this model. On the left side will be the dial that controls your radio settings and your phone connectivity. From here you can scroll through FM, AM, your USB, and Bluetooth. Also, of course, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and Alexa. So you can scroll through all this on your own time and at your own discretion. The main highlight here for the Passport is this new infotainment system with Google built-in software. This isn't the first time we've seen this integrated into a Honda vehicle, because it's now available in the Honda Civic and also the Pilot, but to now have this at a base trim is fantastic. So on the left side of the screen will be quick access icons that will get you to your home button, but also your Google Assistant, your Google Maps, Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto, which is wireless, by the way, and that will pair up with your wireless phone charging pad on the center console. Now, it is laid out exactly like you have with other Honda vehicles in the lineup. There will be widgets on the home page, so from here you can easily access your vehicle settings, general settings, profile settings, also your trip computer, but probably more importantly is that Google Assistant, Play Store, Alexa, and then your Google Maps and phone connectivity. And I have to say, Honda does a really good job with their resolution and quality, where it is very responsive. Even though you have to reach for the screen, I wish there were some dials or some buttons here that would help control that, but still very easy to use, and also better yet, it's not too in-depth. So shouldn't confuse a lot of you if this is your first time taking a look at the Passport for 2026. Now, when you do place this vehicle in reverse, you are going to receive a rear backup camera with trajectory, but like every other Honda, it is a multi-angle rear view. So you're going to have your standard view here, but then also a 180-degree view, and then also your trail cam, or bumper cam as I call it, because that way you won't be backing into a vehicle that's parked directly behind you. Now, you're also going to have trajectory here, giving you that more confidence when you are backing out of tight spots or in a garage. Also, you will have parking sensors for the front and rear. Gives you a lot more safety at the end of the day. Beneath the head unit, if you have forgotten what model this is, you got the Passport badge once again stamped out on the dashboard. So Honda's making it clear that this is not a Pilot. This is a Passport. So that's a nice little touch there for the interior. Then for the center console itself, you're going to have your gear selector here, which does carry over from that Honda Pilot. And also what carries over from the Pilot is your drive mode selector. So from here, you can scroll through Sport, Normal, Eco, Snow, Trail, Sand, and Tow. This is standard for the Passport. So even if you don't have the all-terrain tires, the off-road tuned suspension, or the skid plates, you still have the drive mode selector here for the RTL. Next to that will be your auto start stop, your hill descent control, your electronic parking brake, and then auto vehicle hold, and then of course you have your 2 cup holders. Then for the standard storage compartment, there is plenty of room for smaller items. In fact, you could store a couple water bottles here, tech gadgets. I mean, it's actually quite deep, and this does carry over from last generation, where the Passport was actually rather spacious for the interior with their center console. So really great to see here. Now, unfortunately with the RTL, this is the only trim that does not receive a power moonroof. So you're gonna have to go with the TrailSport if you want that feature to bring in a lot of natural light to the interior and also some fresh air to the driving environment. Now, for passengers in the back with the Passport, you are going to receive right around 41 inches of legroom, which is a slight increase from last generation. Now, obviously with this model being a bit longer than its predecessor, you can have more interior space, and that helps out with the cargo area, which we will talk about in a minute. Now, back here, I think people of all shapes and sizes will be very comfortable, not only with the legroom, but also the headroom and shoulder room. You can easily fit a third person in the center for this model, like we see with the Pilot. So this is most certainly a 5-passenger vehicle overall. No one will be fighting for that shoulder room, and better yet, with that center hump, it's non-existent. So there's going to be a lot of legroom here, which is great to see for a vehicle with all-wheel drive. Headroom wise, without the panoramic moonroof, you have plenty of headroom so taller passengers will not be hitting their head on the headliner. Now, what is interesting though is that this model does have 3-zone climate control, but you can't control that from the second row, which is a bit of a surprise here. You would expect that for a vehicle like this, where you'd be able to control the dials, but that just isn't the case for the Passport, at least for the RTL. You are going to notice 2 center-mounted air vents, also 2 USB-C inputs, and then to round out the front seating area will be a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time to take a look at the rear cargo area. With the RTL, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 44 cubic feet of room, which is a slight increase over last generation. Now, as you can tell, we have the netting and the cargo cover already installed here. So I have some of my camera gear back here, which are nice and secure and out of sight, which is perfect if I do leave this vehicle unattended for a while. Now, as you can tell, with 44 cubic feet of room, you can stack up a lot of items back here. So there's a lot of practicality when you are going on those road trips or off-road excursions. On both sides of the rear cargo area, hope you guys can see this, you are going to have some cubbies for some smaller items, maybe a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at a total of 83.5 cubic feet of room. Once again, is better than last generation and is really on the higher end in this market. So if you are looking for a practical 2-row SUV that is going to be rugged, off-road worthy, and more specifically with the RTL, more of a family-friendly SUV and crossover, going with the Passport would be a nice upgrade over that Honda CR-V. For all intents and purposes for 2026, the Honda Passport is basically a 2-row version of the Pilot. Shares the exact same platform, same transmission, same engine. However, where I think both models diverge is with the handling, steering input, and also the suspension. Even though with the Pilot, you have a TrailSport trim, all-terrain tires, off-road tuned suspension, the Passport feels slightly different. This doesn't feel like a copy and paste in the lineup, even though the RTL is basically the EXL for the Pilot. This just feels set up very differently. You feel that with the steering, whether you're in normal or sport mode, the steering is actually rather light and a bit vague, but set up to be more of an off-roader rather than being a 2-row entry-level luxury crossover like we have here with the RTL. I mean, the V6 gives you a lot to work with. A lot of manufacturers right now are using turbo 4s, so the V6 makes the Passport feel somewhat like it's body on frame. And because of that, I think you have a lot more confidence when you're taking on the trails or you're going off-road, taking on winter road conditions compared to, say, a Chevrolet Blazer or even a standard Hyundai Santa Fe. Now, the Santa Fe does offer an XRT trim, but I think you're going to like the V6 a lot more than that Turbo 4. What I really like here about the Passport, though, is that Honda has really given their models higher up in the lineup a lot of rigidity, refinement, and quality that we might not have seen in the past, especially last generation. The last generation Passport was a reflection of the current market it was in, going against the Ford Edge, Chevrolet Blazer, other 2-row sporty crossovers that were designed to be adventurous. This time around, I feel like the Passport is specifically designed for a buyer looking for an adventure vehicle, but you also want a crossover that's still dailyable and not abusive on those longer road trips or those weekday commutes. Because if you go with the TrailSport, you're going to have the off-road tuned suspension. You're also going to have the all-terrain tires. That will create a lot more road noise and harshness when you're going over the bumps and imperfections. Now, I do think, though, that even with the RTL, you feel those bumps, you feel those imperfections, so it's not going to be like the Pilot in that way. I think the Pilot is a more of a softer SUV that glides over the roadways a lot more than this Passport, but that's to be expected. This is supposed to be the most capable and off-road worthy vehicle Honda has ever produced, and within about 15 minutes, I'm noticing that immediately. Now, even though you have these off-road attributes, being behind the wheel, the driving atmosphere, the environment, still also carries over from that Pilot where, it feels like a $50,000 crossover. It really does. I mean, you have this nice leather-wrapped steering wheel that feels really nice in the hands. I mean, that gives you a lot of quality immediately when you hop inside for the first time, even for an RTL trim. But even just the rest of the dashboard, the way it's laid out, even the interior, this has a nice high-quality feel to it that's most certainly making a great first impression here. So now that we're entering the highway here, let's place it in sport mode and see what this 3.5-liter V6 has to offer here. Yeah, there's body roll immediately. Yeah, this is not designed to be a sports crossover. You feel that weight transfer. But listen to the growl of that V6. Oh, a beautiful noise in 2025. Now, as you can tell, we were able to merge on the highway very safely and quickly. So even though we don't have 300 horsepower or more, 280 is more than enough for a vehicle in this segment. Now, at highway speeds, road noise isn't too bad. Now, Honda did work on the interior insulation. You also have the sound deadening for the glass as well. So you do have somewhat of an isolated feel being behind the wheel, which is great to see. I will say, though, that with this SUV having the higher ground clearance, you don't have a lower center of gravity, there is somewhat of a disconnect between you and the road. So this definitely has that rugged SUV quality that, again, we don't see a lot anymore in this segment. At least for a vehicle that isn't body on frame. Heading into the corners, again, you can feel that weight transfer, you can feel that body roll. And like I said before, the steering is somewhat light. So it's not as sporty as the Pilot. But I do think, though, that this SUV has been engineered to be more of a rugged off-roader than a luxury crossover for the roadways. So all in all, after this quick test drive and spending some time with the Passport today, this SUV made a great first impression. I'm looking forward to the TrailSport and TrailSport Elite. I just wanted to check out what this Passport had to offer on the lower end, because even if you're someone who is considering a Pilot and you're like, well, I don't really need a third row, I think you're going to like the Passport. The fact that for, what, $45,000, you have heated front seats that are power adjustable, you also have Google built-in software, you have a lot of creature comforts and amenities. You know, it's a great value, it really is. And better yet, it's also an SUV that has its own personality and characteristics compared to that Pilot. So there's no redundancy here in the lineup, which is really great to see. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2026 Honda Passport. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.